The morning sun shone bright over the city of Seoul as Yoona Kim walked into her office. She was the president of Earth, and today felt like any other day. People were going to work, children were going to school, and life was normal. Nobody knew that. In a few hours, everything would change forever. Far away in space, Captain Minho Park was drinking his morning coffee on the bridge of his spaceship called Discovery. He had been traveling through space for 3 years looking for alien life. His crew of 30 people had found many empty planets, but no aliens. They were starting to think they were alone in the universe. Minho was a tall man with kind eyes who loved exploring space. He had left Earth with big dreams of meeting friendly aliens and sharing knowledge. His wife Shiwan worked as the ship's navigator, and his best friend Sang-woo was the chief engineer. They were all excited about their mission to find new worlds on this day. Jiwon was checking the ship's computers when something strange appeared on her screen. A huge energy signal was coming from the direction of Earth. She called to Minho, who rushed over to look at the readings. His face went pale as he saw what the computers were showing back on Earth. President Yoona was in a meeting when her assistant burst through the door. The young woman looked scared and was breathing hard. She whispered something in Yoona's ear that made the president stand up quickly. Yoona told everyone to leave the room immediately and ran to the emergency command center deep underground. In the command center, dozens of people were staring at screens and talking in worried voices. General Taeyun Lee, the head of Earth's military, was pointing at a big display screen that showed space around Earth. What Yoona saw made her heart stop beating for a moment. Hundreds of alien spaceships surrounded Earth's moon. The ships were huge and black like giant metal insects. They had strange shapes with sharp edges and glowing red lights. The alien fleet was so big it blocked out parts of the moon and stars behind it. Suddenly, every television, every computer screen, and every phone on Earth showed the same image. An alien creature appeared on the screens. Its face was long and thin with 4 arms and glowing red eyes that seemed to look right through the camera. The creature wore dark armor that reflected light like oil. The alien spoke in perfect English with a voice that sounded like metal scraping against stone. It said, "My name is Commander Zereth of the Galactic Dominion. You humans have left your planet without our permission. Your species shows dangerous growth. We rule this galaxy and all life in it." President Yoona felt her hands shake as she listened to the alien's words. The creature continued speaking. "You will give us all your technology and weapons. You will stop building spaceships. You will obey our laws, or we will destroy your entire planet." The alien paused and seemed to smile, though its face was hard to read. "We give you one choice: submit to Dominion rule and live as our servants, or refuse and watch your species die. We are patient. We will give you time to decide." General Lee stepped forward and whispered to President Yoona, "What should we tell them?" She thought for a long moment about all the people on Earth, all the children playing in parks, all the families having dinner together. She thought about freedom and what it meant to be human. President Yoona looked directly at the camera and spoke clearly. "We are humans. We have traveled to the stars because that is what we do. We explore, we learn, we grow. We will not be slaves to anyone. Our answer is no." Alien Commander's eyes glowed brighter, and what might have been anger crossed its face. "Very well," he said, "you have chosen extinction, but first you will see what happens to those who defy the Dominion." The alien raised one of its 4 arms and pointed at something off camera. Immediately, bright flashes of light began appearing all over Earth. The lights were beautiful like fireworks, but they brought only death. Every flash meant thousands of people were gone. In New York City, an entire neighborhood vanished in a brilliant white light. In London, families walking in parks simply disappeared. In Tokyo, whole apartment buildings turned to empty space in seconds. 99 million people were erased from existence. The alien commander watched as the lights flashed across Earth like deadly stars. Each death was broadcast live across the galaxy as a warning to other species who might think of resisting Dominion rule. The message was clear: this is what happens when you say no to us. President Yoona watched in horror as the number of dead climbed higher and higher on her screen. Cities that had millions of people now had empty spaces. Where neighborhoods used to be, families were torn apart as some members vanished while others remained. Captain Minho received the emergency broadcast from Earth on his ship in deep space. His crew gathered around the communication screen and watched as their home planet was attacked. They saw the alien ships. They saw the flashes of light. They saw the counter showing how many people had died. Navigator Juan began to cry as she realized her parents lived in one of the cities that was hit. Engineer Sangwoo punched the wall so hard his hands started bleeding. Other crew members just stared in shock, unable to believe what they were seeing. The alien commander spoke again. Your species has seen our power. In 1 year we will return. If you have not surrendered completely, we will finish what we started today. Every human will die and your planet will become empty rock. The alien ships began to leave, but before they disappeared completely, they fired one last weapon at the moon. The blast carved words into the moon's surface in letters so large they could be seen from Earth. The message reads, submit or Diaz. The alien fleet vanished into space. Earth was left with the aftermath. 99 million people were gone, families destroyed, cities damaged, and the whole world in shock. But something else had happened that the aliens did not expect. Anger began to grow in the hearts of humans everywhere. The aliens had killed children, parents, grandparents, innocent people who had done nothing wrong. They had murdered nearly 1% of humanity just to make a point. They had made the biggest mistake any species could make. They had shown humans that there were monsters in the universe. Real monsters that would kill without mercy, and humans had been dealing with monsters for thousands of years. Every human child grew up learning about monsters and stories because their parents knew something important. Monsters should be afraid of humans, not the other way around. President Yuna stood in the command center surrounded by general scientists and world leaders. She looked at each person in the room and saw the same thing in their eyes: fury, cold, deadly fury that would burn across the galaxy. She spoke quietly, but her words carried the weight of a species that had just declared war. We have 1 year, she said. 1 year to build a fleet. 1 year to create weapons. 1 year to prepare for Operation Extinction. The aliens thought they were teaching humans about power. They were right, but not in the way they expected. They were about to learn what happened when you killed human children. They were about to discover why humans were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. When someone threatened their families, the war had begun. The day after the massacre, President Yuna Kim stood in a secret meeting room beneath the mountains of South Korea. Around the table sat the most powerful people on Earth, but today they all looked small and scared. The weight of 99 million dead pressed down on everyone like a heavy stone. General Taeyun Lee spread maps and charts across the table showing every military base on Earth. His voice was rough when he spoke. We have 1 year to build a fleet that can fight those aliens. Our current weapons are like throwing rocks at a mountain. Dr. Sangwoo Kim sat quietly in the corner of the room. He was a thin man with tired eyes who had spent 15 years working on weapons that the peaceful Earth government had banned. His research was hidden in secret labs deep underground where no one was supposed to know about it. For years, Sangwoo had dreamed of weapons that could crack planets and turn stars into bombs. He had designed ships that could travel faster than light, and bombs that could erase matter itself, but the Earth Council had always said no to his ideas. They wanted peace, not war. No, everything had changed. President Yuna looked directly at Sangwoo and said, Doctor, we need to see everything you have been working on. All of it. The time for keeping secrets is over. Sangwoo smiled for the first time in years. He had been waiting for this moment when the world would finally understand that sometimes peace was not enough. Sometimes you needed weapons that could kill gods. He stood up and led them to his hidden laboratory deep beneath the Korean mountains. Sangwoo showed them rooms full of blueprints and prototype weapons. He had designed plasma cannons that could melt through any armor, energy shields that could stop planet-killing missiles, and most importantly, ships that could cross the galaxy in weeks instead of years. In Moscow, weapons engineer Yunji Choi was pulled from her own secret laboratory. She had been working on something the government called impossible: faster than light travel using folded space. Her engines could move ships across the galaxy like stepping through doorways. In Tokyo, physicist Dongyun Park revealed his matter manipulation research. He had learned how to change the basic building blocks of reality itself. His weapons could turn enemy ships into clouds of gas or transform asteroids into deadly missiles across the world. Similar scenes were happening. Scientists who had been forced to hide their dangerous research were suddenly the most important people on Earth. Every nation opened their secret weapons programs. Every hidden laboratory was brought into the light. President Yuna called an emergency meeting of the United Earth Council representatives. From every country came to the underground chamber where humanity would decide its future. The room was silent as she stood to speak. She looked at each representative and saw the same pain in their eyes. Everyone had lost someone in the alien attack. Everyone had watched helplessly as the lights erased their people from existence. Everyone wanted revenge. My fellow leaders, Una began. Our children are dead, our families are gone, our people were murdered on live broadcast for the entertainment of alien monsters who think we are insects. She paused, letting her words sink into the hearts of everyone in the room. The aliens made one mistake. They thought fear would make us surrender. They have never met humans before. They do not understand what we become when someone hurts our children. The vote was taken quickly and the result was unanimous. Every nation on Earth agreed to put all their military forces under one command. Every scientist, every engineer, every factory would work toward a single goal: the complete destruction of the alien species that had declared war on humanity. Operation Extinction was born and the world began to change in ways no one had ever imagined. Jeong Song was chosen as Supreme Commander of Earth's military forces. She was a brilliant strategist who had spent her career studying ancient human wars. Now she would plan the greatest war in galactic history. The first step was building new factories that could produce warships and weapons on a massive scale. Car factories were converted to build ship hulls. Electronic companies started making targeting computers. Food processing plants began producing military rations for the crews who would carry humanity's revenge to the stars. Schools changed their lessons overnight. Children learned mathematics not for peaceful science but for calculating weapon trajectories and ship movements. Universities focused on engineering weapons and designing better armor. Every human brain was turned toward the problem of killing aliens. Dr. Ji Yang led the Biological Warfare Division in laboratories that officially did not exist. Her team studied the alien genetic samples left behind from the attack, looking for weaknesses in their DNA. They found that the aliens had made themselves genetically perfect, but perfection meant they could not adapt to new threats. The aliens watching Earth through their hidden spy satellites sent reports back to their commanders. The humans are building defensive structures and small patrol ships. They reported nothing that could threaten our main fleet when we returned, but the aliens did not understand human nature. They had spent so long conquering weak species that they had forgotten what dangerous enemies looked like. Humans had learned to hide their true capabilities during centuries of war against each other. Beneath the ocean's massive shipyards were constructed in secret. Giant space elevators carried materials to orbital construction platforms hidden behind asteroids. The aliens saw defensive preparations, but they missed the weapons factories, the prototype warships, and the training centers where humans learned to kill. Captain Minho and his crew worked desperately to return to Earth from deep space. Their small ship pushed its engines beyond safe limits, racing across the galaxy to reach home. As navigator, Jiwon calculated impossible routes through dangerous space to cut months off their journey. When they finally arrived at Earth 8 months later, they found a world they barely recognized. The blue and green planet was now surrounded by metal rings of defense platforms and shipyards. The peaceful Earth they had left was gone, replaced by a fortress world consumed with thoughts of revenge. Admiral Hyunwoo Shin met them at the lunar docking station and showed them their new assignment. The UES Retribution was a battlecruiser built around Dr. Sangwoo's most powerful weapon, a cannon that could fire controlled black holes. Your mission is simple, Admiral Shin explained. Take this ship and a small fleet into alien space, find their homeworlds, and kill everything on them. No prisoners, no mercy, no survivors. Minho looked at his crew and saw that they had all changed during the journey home. Navigator Jiwon had lost her parents in the attack. Weapons Officer Kyung-hoon had watched his children disappear in the alien lights. Engineer Yoonju had seen her entire city turn to glass. They were no longer explorers seeking peaceful contact with alien life. They had become something harder and more dangerous. They were the instruments of humanity's wrath, shaped by loss and pointed at the hearts of their enemies across Earth. The same transformation was happening to millions of people. Farmers learned to operate weapon systems. Factory workers became starship crew members. Teachers trained to fight boarding actions against alien invaders. The aliens had wanted to teach humanity about power and fear. They were About to get their lesson, but not the way they expected. When the year was over, they would learn why every human child grew up hearing stories about monsters. It was because their parents were the things that monsters feared most. The war machine of humanity was awakening, and soon it would be pointed at every alien world in the galaxy. The construction began the very next morning, and Earth transformed into something the galaxy had never seen before. Factories that had made cars for peaceful families now forged armor plating for warships designed to carry death across the stars. Every human hand was turned toward building the instruments of alien. Extinction Captain Taeyun Lee stood on the surface of Earth's moon watching as the skeleton of humanity's first dreadnought took shape. Where once peaceful research stations had studied the cosmos, now rose a ship of war 5 kilometers long and black as the space between stars. The ship had no name, only a number: Dreadnought. One, because humanity was building not just one vessel, but hundreds. Each ship was designed with a single purpose in mind: to travel to alien worlds and erase them from existence. The very idea of peaceful exploration was buried beneath the fury of a species that had lost its children. Engineer Minseok Park worked 18 hours a day installing weapon systems that had existed only in theory months before: quantum torpedo launchers that could erase matter at the subatomic level, plasma cannons that burned hotter than the core of stars, energy shields that could deflect planet-killing weapons. Sir, he called to Captain Lee across the construction bay, the main weapon is ready for testing. Dr. Sangwoo's designs work even better than we hoped. Each shot can delete a city from reality, leaving nothing but empty space where buildings used to stand. In the orbital shipyards above Earth, Admiral Hyunwoo Shin watched as hundreds of smaller vessels took shape, fighter craft that could dance between enemy missiles, destroyers armed with weapons that could crack moons, cruisers carrying bombs that could ignite the atmosphere of entire planets. The ships bore no proud names like the exploration vessels of the past. They were numbered like tools in a workshop, because that was exactly what they were: tools, designed by human hands to solve the problem of alien existence. Every line of their hulls spoke of violence and death. Dr. Ji Yunyang worked in laboratories that were not marked on any map, studying the genetic weaknesses of the alien species. Her team had found something interesting in the alien DNA. The creatures had engineered themselves to be perfect warriors, but their perfection was also their greatest weakness. Their genetic code cannot adapt, she reported to the War Council. We can design viruses that will target their specific biology. They will have no defense against biological weapons because they remove their ability to evolve. The aliens had made themselves into living weapons, but they had forgotten that evolution was nature's way of surviving unexpected threats. They had traded adaptability for power, and now that choice would destroy them. Meanwhile, Captain Minho trained with his new crew aboard the Retribution, learning to operate weapons that could reshape reality itself. His weapons officer, Kyung-hoon, practiced firing black hole projectiles at asteroid targets, watching as the massive rocks simply vanished into tiny tears in space navigation. Officer Ji-won plotted courses through regions of space that no civilized species would dare to enter. Dark matter storms and gravitational anomalies that would hide human ships from alien sensors until it was too late. The alien surveillance teams watching Earth sent regular reports to their commanders. The humans continue building defensive platforms and small patrol vessels. They transmitted nothing that poses any threat to our fleet when we return in 8 months, but the aliens only saw what humanity wanted them to see. Hidden behind the defensive platforms were shipyards producing vessels of incredible destructive power. Camouflaged among the patrol boats were prototype warships testing weapons that could sterilize solar systems. Dr. Sangwoo worked day and night perfecting his planet-killer designs. His latest creation was a bomb that could ignite the core of a world, turning an entire planet into a brief new star. The explosion would be visible from other star systems as a warning to any species that might think of threatening human children. Weapons engineer Yoonji Choi completed her faster-than-light engines that worked by folding space itself. Human ships could now cross the galaxy in weeks, appearing anywhere without warning. Her engines were installed in every vessel, from the largest dreadnoughts to the smallest fighters. Physicist Dongyun Park created matter manipulation devices that could turn enemy ships inside out or transform their hulls into explosive gas. His weapons required no ammunition because they used the target's own atoms as destructive force. As the months passed, the construction continued at an impossible pace. Humans worked around the clock in shifts that never stopped. Orbital elevators carried materials from Earth to the shipyards where robotic assemblers worked alongside human engineers. Children who were too young to work learned new songs about the ships being built and the revenge that was coming. Their lullabies spoke of black holes and plasma fire, of alien worlds burning, and justice for the 99 million who had died. The lunar surface was covered with weapon testing ranges, where new destructive devices were proven against mock alien targets. The dark side of the moon glowed with the light of explosions as each new instrument of war was perfected. President Yuna visited the construction sites and saw the transformation of her species from peaceful explorers to galactic exterminators. She felt pride and sadness in equal measure. Pride at human determination and sadness at what they had been forced to become supreme. Commander Jiang Song coordinated the massive effort from her command center. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, screens showed the progress of construction across Earth and its orbital facilities. Every ship, every weapon, every trained crew member was tracked and prepared. The alien spy satellites detected increased industrial activity, but their operators dismissed it as defensive preparations. They had conquered so many species that they had forgotten what a dangerous enemy looked like. They saw busy factories and assumed fear. They saw ship construction and assumed surrender. What they failed to understand was that humans had been fighting wars for thousands of years. Every innovation from fire to nuclear power had been driven by the need to defeat enemies. Humanity had never learned to build for peace. They had only learned to pause between conflicts. When focused entirely on warfare, humans became something that the peaceful Dominion had never encountered before. A species that perfected violence instead of transcending it, a race that turned every tool into a weapon and every thought toward destruction. The alien overseers counted patrol boats and defense platforms while missing the dreadnoughts hidden in asteroid fields. They tracked civilian shipping while ignoring the warships moving through dark space. They prepared for the surrender of a beaten species while humans prepared their extinction. 8 months into the construction, President Yuna stood before the completed fleet. 5,000 ships of war hung in space around Earth, from massive dreadnoughts that could crack planets to sleek fighters that could hunt down fleeing enemies. The fleet represented the focused rage of an entire species, every rivet driven by fury, every weapon charged with vengeance, every crew member trained to carry out the complete extinction of the aliens who had murdered their families. Tomorrow, the fleet would depart for alien space, carrying with them the promise that humanity had made the Dominion, had killed human children, and now every alien world would pay the price. They would learn why monsters feared humans. The impossible had been built, and soon it would be unleashed. The day of departure arrived, with Earth hidden behind a wall of metal and fire. 5,000 ships hung in the darkness around the planet, each one a monument to human fury and a promise of alien extinction. The largest vessels stretched for kilometers, while the smallest fighters could slip through space like deadly shadows. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of his new ship, the UES Retribution, and felt the weight of command pressing down on his shoulders. This was not the peaceful exploration vessel he had dreamed of commanding as a young officer. This was an instrument of war designed to carry humanity's rage across the galaxy. Admiral Hyun Woo-shin had given him the finest crew that Earth could provide. Navigation officer Soo Yeon Kim had lost her twin daughters when the aliens erased the city of Bizun. Her gentle hands that once guided exploration ships now plotted courses to alien worlds marked for destruction. Weapons officer Kyung-hoon Park had watched through his apartment window as his elderly parents simply vanished in a flash of alien light. Now he spent his days learning to fire black hole projectiles and matter dissolution beams. His target practice involved destroying entire asteroids to prepare for destroying alien cities. Engineering chief Yoonju Lee had seen her hometown of Incheon turn to glass when the aliens demonstrated their power. She had volunteered for the mission with one simple request: to be assigned to the ship that would kill the most Aliens, her modifications to the Retribution's engines would let them outrun any enemy vessel. The crew quarters were filled with similar stories. Every human on every ship carried the memory of someone they had lost. Every face showed the same cold determination to make the aliens pay for their crimes. They were no longer the curious explorers who had left Earth 3 years ago. Dr. Sang-woo came aboard just before departure to personally oversee his most devastating creation, the ship's main weapon was a cannon that could fire controlled black holes, creating tears in space that would swallow enemy vessels completely. The weapon had no name because names were for tools of creation, not instruments of extinction in the launch bay. President Yoon Kim stood before the assembled fleet commanders. Representatives from every ship attended either in person or through holographic projection. The sight of so many warriors gathered for a single purpose filled her with pride and terror. My fellow humans, she began, her voice carrying to every ship in the fleet through the communication network. 1 year ago, they thought they could break our spirit with fear. They thought we would kneel before their power and beg for mercy. She paused, looking at the faces of humanity's finest warriors. Each person had volunteered for a mission that might be suicide. Each ship carried crews who would rather die fighting than live in submission to alien masters. They killed our children on live broadcast, thinking it would teach us to fear them. Today, we begin teaching them that fear works both ways. Today, we show them what happens when someone threatens human families. The fleet began departing in waves, each group of ships disappearing into hyperspace through Dr. Yoonji Choi's revolutionary faster-than-light engines. The first wave consisted of reconnaissance vessels led by Captain Minho, their mission to scout alien defenses and begin the campaign of terror. The second wave carried the heavy assault ships, dreadnoughts armed with planet-killing weapons and crewed by humans who had lost everything. The third wave held the support vessels carrying supplies and reinforcements for what everyone knew would be a long and bloody war. As each ship vanished into the twisted space of faster-than-light travel, Earth grew quieter. The planet that had buzzed with frantic construction for almost a year now seemed empty despite the billions of people who remained behind. Those who stayed worked in the factories, producing more ships and weapons for the waves of reinforcement fleets that would follow. The journey to alien space took 3 weeks, traveling through regions of the galaxy that no civilized species dared to enter. Human ships moved like ghosts through dark matter storms and gravitational anomalies, invisible to the surveillance networks that the Dominion used to watch for threats. Captain Minho spent the journey studying everything humanity had learned about their enemies, the aliens called themselves the Dominion, and claimed to rule over millions of worlds. They had conquered dozens of species through demonstrations of overwhelming force, exactly like the massacre they had inflicted on Earth, but the Dominion had never faced an enemy. Like humanity, every species they had conquered before had been peaceful traders or simple colonists who surrendered when threatened with extinction. They had no experience fighting an entire civilization that refused to be intimidated. The alien High Council met in their crystal palace on the core world of Nexus Prime, discussing the primitive humans who had only 2 months left to surrender. Commander Zereth, who had delivered the ultimatum to Earth, reported to the assembled rulers with confidence. The humans continue to build defensive structures. Our scouts report, he told the council, no significant military advancement has been detected. They will submit when we return to finish what we started. What the scouts had not reported was that their surveillance satellites around Earth had been carefully fed false information for months. They saw exactly what humanity wanted them to see, while the real preparations happened in hidden shipyards and secret training facilities. The alien leaders discussed their plans for ruling over the defeated human species. They would take the best human minds for their research projects and use the rest as labor for their expanding empire. Earth would become another conquered world. In their vast collection, they had conquered 43 species in exactly the same way. A demonstration of power followed by surrender and integration into their empire. The formula had worked perfectly every time, and they saw no reason why humans would be any different. On the third week of travel, Captain Minho's fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Dominion territory. Their target was a mining world called Kepler Station, home to 50 million aliens and defended by a fleet that had never known defeat. The planet hung in space like a jewel surrounded by massive orbital platforms and hundreds of alien warships. The mining operation stripped valuable minerals from the planet's surface to fuel the Dominion war machine. Their shields and weapons represented the finest technology in the galaxy. Captain Minho opened communication channels to his small fleet of 12 ships. Each vessel carried crews who had lost family in the alien massacre. Each captain understood that this was not a battle for territory or resources. This was the beginning of an extermination campaign. All ships, this is retribution. He broadcast to his strike force, remember, we are not here to conquer territory or capture prisoners. We are here to test our weapons and send a message to every alien in the galaxy. Human ships moved into attack formation, their black hulls almost invisible against the darkness of space. The alien defenders detected them and moved to intercept, confident in their technological superiority and overwhelming numbers. What happened next would be reported across the galaxy as the day the universe learned to fear humanity. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it ended, the Dominion fleet was scattered atoms drifting in space, and the planet below had been cracked open like an egg. 50 million aliens died as quickly as they had killed humans. But this was only the first payment on a debt that would cost the Dominion everything they had ever built. The message was burned into the surface of nearby moons in letters visible from orbit. 2 killed our children, now we kill everything. Captain Minho recorded the results of the battle and transmitted them back to Earth and forward to the rest of the human fleet. The weapons worked perfectly, the alien defenses were weaker than expected, and the campaign of extinction could begin in earnest across Dominion space. Similar attacks began as human strike forces emerged from dark space to destroy alien outposts and colonies. The aliens who had casually murdered millions of humans now faced the fury of a species that had turned genocide into an art form. The hunt had begun, and humanity would not stop until every alien world was a lifeless rock drifting in space. News of the Kepler Station massacre reached the Dominion High Council within hours, transmitted by the few automated beacons that survived the human attack. The alien leaders gathered in their crystal palace on Nexus Prime, their usual calm superiority replaced by confusion and growing fear. Council leader Vorthak studied the battle reports with increasing alarm. How did primitive humans destroy our Ninth Fleet in 17 minutes? He demanded. The aliens had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years and never faced such swift and total destruction of their forces. Commander Zereth, who had delivered the ultimatum to Earth, found himself struggling to explain what his sensors had recorded. The human ships appeared from nowhere, moving faster than our vessels could track their weapons. Dissolved our fleet at the molecular level. The High Council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans they had dismissed as primitive insects had somehow developed technology that exceeded even Dominion capabilities. Their black ships moved like ghosts and struck with the power of collapsing stars. What the Dominion leaders did not understand was that human technology had never been about peace or comfortable living. Every human innovation, from the first stone tools to nuclear fusion, had been driven by the need to kill enemies more effectively. When humanity focused entirely on warfare, they became something unprecedented. Over the following weeks, more reports flooded into Nexus Prime. Each message brought worse news than the last. Human strike forces were appearing throughout Dominion territory, attacking without warning and leaving nothing alive behind them. The mining world of Talseti 7 went silent after a brief distress call. The agricultural colony at Volf 359 vanished completely, with only a radioactive crater marking where the settlement had stood. The industrial complex at Ross 128 was found drifting in space as scattered metal debris. Captain Minho led his strike force from target to target, following a carefully planned campaign of terror. His orders were simple: destroy everything alien and make sure survivors could spread word of what happened to them. The fear had to spread faster than human ships could travel. At the research station orbiting Proxima Centauri, his weapons officer Kyung-hoon used the new matter dissolution beams to demonstrate human technological superiority. The alien scientists who had been developing new weapons for the Dominion watched in horror as their space station was systematically erased. Piece by piece, Navigation Officer Su Yang plotted courses that kept them ahead of any alien response fleets, using her knowledge of galactic geography To strike where enemies were weakest, her mathematical precision in calculating hyperspace jumps allowed them to appear anywhere without warning. Engineering Chief Yunju had modified their engines to run beyond safe parameters because the mission was more important than crew safety. They could outrun any Dominion vessel and strike targets across multiple star systems in a single day. Each attack followed the same pattern. Human ships would emerge from hyperspace, destroy everything in the system, and leave a message burned into the surface of nearby planets or moons. The message was always the same: you killed our children, now we kill everything. Dr. Sangwoo's weapons performed beyond his most optimistic calculations. The black hole projectors could swallow entire fleets, while the quantum torpedoes erased matter at the subatomic level. Enemy shields designed to stop conventional weapons offered no protection against weapons that redefined the laws of physics. The Biological Warfare Division, led by Dr. Ji Eun-young, began deploying their custom-designed viruses targeting alien genetic structures. Dominion colonies that escaped direct attack found their populations dying from diseases that their perfect immune systems could not fight. Captain Tae-yun led a second strike force targeting alien military academies and training facilities. His mission was to ensure that the Dominion could not train new officers to replace the ones being killed by human attacks. Every alien who might have learned to fight effectively was eliminated. The psychological impact spread faster than the physical destruction. Alien species throughout the galaxy began receiving reports of human attacks. Colony worlds that had never seen warfare started building defenses. Trade routes that had been safe for centuries were abandoned. What terrified the aliens most was the complete ruthlessness of human tactics. The humans took no prisoners, asked for no surrender, and showed no mercy. They fought like natural disasters that could think and plan. Every attack was perfectly executed, and absolutely final. Supreme Commander Jeong Song coordinated the campaign from her command center on Earth, watching as red dots disappeared from the galactic map. Each dot represented an alien world that had been marked for extinction. Her strategic mind had turned the galaxy into a chessboard where only one species would survive. The Dominion tried to respond by sending their main battle fleets to hunt down the human raiders, but human ships moved through regions of space that Dominion vessels could not enter. Dark matter storms that would tear apart conventional ships were navigated easily by human technology. Admiral Hyun Woo-shin commanded the second wave of human ships now departing Earth. The main assault fleet carried weapons even more devastating than those used by the strike forces. Planet crackers that could split worlds and half-star killers that could cause suns to go supernova. President Yuna received reports of each successful attack and felt a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. The aliens were learning what happened when someone threatened human children, but each victory took humanity further from the peaceful species they had once been. The Alien High Council called emergency sessions every day as more worlds went silent. Their vast empire that had seemed invincible was being systematically dismantled by a species they had thought was helpless. The humans were not trying to conquer territory, they were simply erasing alien existence. Commander Zereth found himself demoted and blamed for the disaster that had befallen the Dominion. The other council members needed someone to blame for underestimating the human threat. His reports of primitive defenses and weak technology now seemed like deliberate lies. The truth was that every alien in the galaxy had misunderstood what humans were capable of when motivated by revenge. They had seen exploration ships and assumed humanity was curious and gentle. They had missed the fact that every human civilization had been built on the bones of its enemies. As the weeks passed, the pattern of human attacks became clear. They were not random raids, but a systematic campaign designed to destroy the Dominion completely. Every attack weakened alien military capability while spreading terror through their remaining territories. The aliens who had casually murdered 99 million humans in a demonstration of power were learning that demonstrations worked both ways. Every human attack sent the same message to the galaxy: fear us because we are the things that monsters have nightmares about. The hunt continued across dozens of star systems as human ships emerged from dark space to deliver extinction to any world that had ever served the Dominion. The aliens had wanted to teach humanity about power, and they were getting their lesson, but the lesson was not what they had expected. Instead of Learning to submit, humans had learned to kill on a galactic scale. The species that had once dreamed of peaceful contact with alien life was becoming the most feared force in the known universe. Soon the hunt would reach its final target, the core worlds of the Dominion, where the leaders who had ordered the massacre of human children waited in their crystal palaces, believing their power could protect them. They would learn that human power was different from anything they had ever faced. It was powered by love for their children and fury at those who hurt them. And it would not stop until every alien responsible was dead. The final assault on Nexus Prime began when 5,000 human warships materialized around the Dominion capital world like vengeful ghosts emerging from the darkness of space. The sight was magnificent and terrifying as humanity's entire battle fleet hung in formation around the planet that had ordered the death of 99 million innocents. Admiral Hyunwoo Shin commanded the assault from the bridge of the massive dreadnought Yu's Vengeance, watching through the main display as the largest alien fleet ever assembled rose from the planet's surface. To meet them, 10,000 Dominion vessels climbed toward space in perfect formation, confident in their technological superiority. The alien ships were beautiful in their own way, sleek and graceful with hulls that reflected starlight like polished mirrors. They had been designed by a species that valued elegance and efficiency. Their weapons could level mountains and their shields could deflect planet-killing asteroids, but they had been built by a civilization that had forgotten what war truly meant. The Dominion had conquered through demonstrations of overwhelming force against peaceful species. They had never faced an enemy that had spent its entire existence perfecting the art of killing all ships. This is Admiral Shin broadcasting across the human fleet. Remember what they took from us. Remember why we crossed the galaxy to stand here today. The response came as thousands of human voices speaking in perfect unison. For the 99 million, the battle that followed would be remembered across the galaxy as the day a peaceful species learned what happened when you threatened humanity. The human ships moved like a school of predatory fish, each vessel knowing exactly where to strike for maximum damage. Captain Minho led his strike group directly at the heart of the alien formation, his ship Retribution cutting through enemy lines like a sword through paper. The black hole projectors fired continuously, turning enemy dreadnoughts into expanding spheres of twisted space that consumed everything nearby. The Dominion fleet tried to use their superior numbers to overwhelm the human forces, but they discovered that humans had learned lessons from thousands of years of warfare against each other. Every tactical formation, every strategic maneuver had been perfected through generations of conflict. Weapons officer Kyung-hoon fired quantum torpedoes that erased alien ships at the molecular level, leaving empty space where massive vessels had been seconds before each shot was aimed with mathematical precision calculated to cause maximum destruction to enemy formation. Integrity Navigation Officer Soo-young coordinated the movements of hundreds of human ships through the chaotic battle space using her understanding of three-dimensional combat to position each vessel where it could do the most damage. Her calculations turned the battle into a deadly dance of destruction. The alien commanders tried to retreat when they realized their fleet was being systematically destroyed, but human ships were faster and more maneuverable. The Dominion vessels that had seemed so elegant in formation became helpless targets as they tried to escape engineering. Chief Yunju pushed the Retribution's engines beyond all safety limits because the mission was worth any risk. The ship moved through the battle like a force of nature, appearing wherever the fighting was fiercest and alien resistance was strongest. Dr. Sang-woo's weapons performed exactly as designed, turning the most advanced alien technology into clouds of expanding plasma. The creatures who had thought themselves superior to humans watched their finest ships dissolve under the fury of human engineering. As the space battle raged overhead, Captain Minho led the ground assault on Nexus Prime itself. His Marines dropped from orbit in armored pods that burned through the atmosphere like falling stars. Each soldier carried weapons that could level city blocks and armor that could withstand direct hits from alien energy weapons. The crystal cities of Nexus Prime had never known warfare. The alien civilians had lived for generations believing their military was invincible and their homeworld was untouchable. They watched in terror as human soldiers moved through their streets like death given physical form the Dominion. Ground forces tried to defend their capital, but they had been trained to fight other aliens who followed civilized rules of engagement. They had never faced humans who fought with the fury of parents seeking vengeance for murdered children. Human Marines used plasma weapons that turned alien defenders into expanding clouds of superheated gas. Tactical nuclear devices cleared entire city blocks of resistance. Biological weapons targeted alien DNA, specifically leaving their perfect genetic engineering useless against human science. In the Crystal Palace, where the High Council had made their decision to murder human civilians, President Yoon Kim herself arrived to deliver humanity's final message. She walked through halls lined with the art and culture of a species that would not exist tomorrow. The surviving Dominion leaders cowered in their throne room as the small human woman entered, surrounded by Marines whose armor was scorched from the fighting outside. Council leader Vorthik tried to speak but found his voice had abandoned him in the face of human fury. You wanted to teach us about power, President Yuna said, her voice calm despite the violence that surrounded the palace. Consider this lesson complete. You killed our children on live broadcast thinking it would make us surrender. She gestured to the screens around the throne room, which now showed the destruction of the Dominion fleet in orbit and the systematic elimination of every alien military installation on the planet. The images were being broadcast across the galaxy just as the aliens had broadcast human deaths. The execution of the Dominion High Council was carried out with the same cold efficiency they had used to murder human families. Each alien leader was eliminated quickly, and without ceremony their deaths were transmitted to every corner of the galaxy as proof that humanity kept its promises. The last alien ship in orbit was destroyed by Captain Minho's personal fire as the retribution finished what the Dominion had started 1 year ago. The species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia was reduced to scattered atoms drifting in the vacuum of space across Dominion territory. Human fleets completed the systematic extermination of every alien world that had supported the massacre of human civilians. Mining colonies, agricultural worlds, research stations, and military bases were all erased from existence with mechanical precision. The biological weapons created by Dr. Jiun Yang were deployed on worlds that tried to surrender, ensuring that the alien species would never recover from the war they had started. Every trace of Dominion genetic material was systematically eliminated from the galaxy. In the aftermath, human ships patrolled the ruins of what had once been the greatest empire in known space. The elegant alien cities were now radioactive craters. The beautiful starships were expanding clouds of plasma. The perfect genetic engineering was extinct. Other species throughout the galaxy watched the destruction in stunned silence and learned a lesson that would be remembered. For thousands of years, humanity was not just another species to be conquered or ignored. They were something far more dangerous. The galaxy discovered that while humans preferred peace and cooperation, when threatened they became something that nightmares feared. They were a species that would cross the galaxy itself to protect their children and would not stop until their enemies were extinct. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of his ship and looked out at the dead world below where the alien High Council had once planned the conquest of humanity. Now, nothing remained but cooling rock and radioactive dust. The species that killed 99 million humans no longer existed anywhere in the universe. Operation Extinction was complete. The promise had been kept. The debt had been paid in full. Every alien who had participated in the massacre was dead, and their entire species had been erased from existence as thoroughly as they had tried to erase humanity in the years that followed. Other alien civilizations would speak in whispers about the day the humans went to war. They would tell their children to be kind to any humans they met, because the small bipedal creatures from the third planet were the